Hello and welcome to Studio Lab and to our first tutorial. Our first project is our slot together game. The principles of this based around our first three steps of our skills progression, which are the use of following a straight line. On the table in front of me, I've got the basic equipment that we're going to need for this. I've got my sheets of fresh wood. I've got my various grades of sandpapers. I've got some little offcuts of scrap material which I generated from the sheet as I go along, which I always find useful. I've got my hot glue gun in case I need it later with an adult to show me how to do that, to help me do that if my game needs gluing together, I've got a basic drawing kit consisting of the very least a sharp pencil and a ruler. Later on, when you finish your game, you may need some marker pens and some coloured pencil to add your own design to it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take just an offcut of wood. You can chop a little corner off your finished sheet if you want for this. We're going to take a ruler and we're going to just draw a random straight line on our piece of wood and we're going to try and follow it. Okay, so I've got a random straight line on my piece of wood here. I'm going to place that on my machine and follow the three basic cutting rules that we follow for our jigsaw, namely push down, push forward, and push slowly. There is a fourth piece of advice we will give you to keep your fingers close, and remembering that our blades on our special machines here cannot cut your finger. Okay, I use this little template here to illustrate to people the reason why that's the case, and that's because the teeth of our blade have been rounded off. They can't cut you. They're hard enough to go through the wood because they're made of steel, but they can't damage your finger, which is why I'll be asking you to put your fingers quite close to the blade. So I'm going to go ahead now and chop this down the line as accurately as I can. I've done it, I've chopped it into two halves, but what I notice when I put them back together is on one of the pieces I can still see some pencil. If I put those together here, you will see I can still see some pencil on one of the pieces, which means of course I've gone offline. The ideal cut is to be able to go down that line so accurately that when we have our two pieces, we can't see any pencil at all. Much better. I'm practicing, that's my second practice now. So if you want to do this 2, 3, 4, 5 times until we start the project, feel free to. The only way you're going to have a nice, accurate project is with nice, accurate cutting. So practice that as often as you feel you need to. Pushing down on the wood, keeping your fingers close to the blade. So when your fingers go past the blade, move them back so they're always within the vicinity of these two little circles here either side of the blade. Not out wide, not miles away from the blade, but nice and close and moving nice and slow. Okay, moving on to our little game then. We're going to take a piece of fresh wood and we're going to use the measurement, the number 7. I want you to remember that because it's these squares we're going to cut out to put our game together are 7 centimeters square. Now when you get your piece, you will have these really nice straight edges on here which we can make use of to ensure that our pieces are parallel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my ruler on to the edge of the wood here and I'm going to look for the number 7 along the centimeter side. I'm going to find it there and I'm going to mark that 7 just with a little line. I'm going to do a second one down here, lining up with the straight edge, find the number 7 and make a little mark. Then when I join these together, I've got a distance of 7 centimeters along there, which is parallel to this edge. Okay, so don't go marking that in the center because that can still be, it won't be straight. I'm using the straight edge of the wood as a guide. 7, 7, 7. So now I turn it the other way and I remember that number 7 again because I'm going to do it this time to form my squares. I'm going to go from the left hand side here. I'm going to Again, line up my 0 with the edge. I'm going to go 7. And while I'm at it, I'm going to do another 7, which of course is 14. And maybe down here, I might do a 7 and a 14. So those are 7 apart. And then I'm just going to join them up. 1, I've got a 7 by 7 square. And I've got another 7 by 7 square. And hey presto, the reason we're using 7 is because the last one is 7, because this is 21 across there. So we can see I've got 3 squares, 1, 2, 3, lined up with the edge, parallel in one direction, parallel, parallel, parallel in the other direction. I'm now ready to cut out my 3 squares that are going to make my game. Okay, so we're using a big sheet now, not a small sheet anymore. We're going to make sure that our fingers are nice and close either side of that line. If we don't do that, if we try and do this or we try and do this, this wood is going to bounce around and that's going to throw you off the line and you won't be accurate. So again, remembering the rules, forward, slowly and down. Those are the 3 ways you need to push. You notice what I was doing there? As soon as my fingers went past the blade, I was moving back. Push forward, go past again, moving back, go forward. If you carry on going forward and you don't move your hands back, it's going to bounce around. So that's the golden rule. Always as close to the blade as we can. Turning that sideways, I'm ready to chop this rectangle into 3 now. And I can see I'm starting to get together now the 3 squares that are going to make our game. Okay, 3 7 by 7 centimeter squares. Next thing to do, you'll notice when our wood goes through the blade, we get left with this sort of ragged edge on here. It's a little unpleasant. You wouldn't want to see that on your finished game. So we're going to just go ahead now with one of our sandpapers and make those edges nice and soft. You can take one of your pieces and fold it small. You can do this by hand. Just moving in your hand like so, rounding the edges. And you'll notice the wood is very soft. It comes away very, very quickly. And you've now got softened edges, okay? No sharp edges on there anymore. No ragged pieces of wood that are going to make your game look unpleasant. And you should be able to get that in your hand and for all those edges to feel very, very soft. So I've done one, very quickly do the other, and then you're going to get your pencil and ruler at the ready because we've got some more marking out to do. As quick as that, no time at all. I've done number 2 and my 3rd one like so. Okay, so with your pencil and your ruler, working out what is the measurement we need to do. Got our 3 pieces, already looking much nicer than they were a moment ago. So the theory of this puzzle and how it goes together, we're going to use a joint called the halving joint. And this is a joint that, as the name suggests, takes half away from one piece, half away from the other piece, and we create for ourselves a slot joint that goes in there like so. So those 2 pieces, when you shape them, shouldn't come apart. I mentioned earlier that you may need your glue gun later. If you do this so accurate, it is possible to put it apart, to put it together with no glue at all, simply by the accuracy of those joints. Okay, so that joint you can see is measured down the middle, and we often get asked the question, how wide does that space have to be? And of course the answer is, it's the width of the piece that's going to go in there. So the easiest way to do this, I'm just going to find the center of my piece. Remember, these were 7, so half of that is 3.5. I'm going to say 3.5 centimeters is there, and 3.5 centimeters is there. Always working in lines which are parallel to the edge. So if I join those two up now, voila, I have a line down the center, 3.5 from each side. Quick shortcut you can take one of your other pieces and you can simply just by eye hold that on what you think is the center line. Have a little sneak either side, I think that's about right. And with your pencil, simply just come down one side and down the other side. And you've got a line that's pretty much central. It's central enough for what we need, and we're ready to start marking out now. And remember, we're going to go halfway down, okay? So turning that in the other direction, I'm just going to give myself a little pencil line, which is 3.5 down there. And I'm going to go one step further and just shade mine in so we can clearly see the detail that I need to take out. Okay, so following me with this cut, I'm going to go in and back, in and back, in one more time, stop pushing, rotate the wood, rotate the wood, push forward, and that piece will come out. Okay, so here we go. In and back first. Stop. Back. Stop. Back. In again. Stop. And rotate. Now push. And that little piece will pop out. Okay? So we've got a piece that's wide enough for our one to go into. Now on the next one, we're going to make sure we do the same, but we're going to make the next one tighter. This is where we're going to get that really nice joint that's going to put these together. Okay? So one more time, I can use this as a guide for my next one actually. I can just place it right up against it. Level, level, use my pencil, and I can just mark that joint on my other piece. I can clearly see the area that I need to take away, okay? Because that was a little loose, I'm going to be conscious to stay on the inside of those lines. I want this to be a tight fit. Got my two pieces, that should go on there, and that should go on there. When you shake that, it shouldn't come apart. Don't force it because there is a chance that the side will snap off. If you do this and it won't fit, that's a good thing. Too small is good because then we can make it nice and accurate. Fold your sandpaper and do some of that in the gap. Or, if there's a lot to remove, you can go back to your blade and just take a little trim off that. But I don't need to do that. My two pieces go together nicely. Okay, they should be able to just stand up. We're halfway there. I'm going to pull those apart. And on one of them now, I need to do two more joints at the side. All right, let me mark mine out first, and then I'll show you how you're going to do yours. So, take one piece. Take the other piece at 90 degrees and place it on top. Nice and level, mark out that joint. Like so. Do the same the other way. So, this stands here, this stands here. Tap on your table, make sure they're in line. Don't want those going out of line. Mark that joint. Okay, now I don't want to cut all of them out because of course mine will fall apart. I'm going to take half of the distance from that side, half of the distance from this side. And just to refresh your memory, make sure you don't make a mistake. I'm going to colour the part in that I need to remove. I'm going to cut away this one and I'm going to cut away this one. But I'm only pushing in half. So this first piece is going to have 3 joints cut out of it. 1, 2, 3. So let's go ahead and cut those now. Same routine, in and back, in, stop pushing, rotate the wood, and then push. Don't be pushing when you rotate. Let me show you what will happen. If you're pushing on there as you rotate, you're going to cut an arc like this because you've got the pushing pressure on as you turn. Stop pushing, rotate the wood, then push. So one more time. So my first piece has got its 3 cuts removed. I'm just going to take a piece of waste wood, see how I did there. That's a nice fit. That's a nice fit, so it doesn't shake off. Again, if it's too small, don't force it, because that corner will just crack off. Okay, so there's our first piece, 3 cuts. One halfway down, second one halfway in, third one halfway in as well. Okay, we're going to put that to one side. We've got our single cut piece and our triple cut piece so far. It's time for our final piece of our game now. For this one, we're going to cut it in half first. So again, we need our 3.5 measurement, remember. 3.5 from our 7 square gives us a halfway cut. 3.5, 3.5, put my ruler on there and line that up. Okay, first step, chop the square in half. Okay, second step now, we're going to put a little halving joint on one edge of this one and one edge of this one. Now I can go back and use my piece from earlier as a little template here. I'm going to put it on the table, make sure that's nice and flat. Hold it there, and it's this joint at the bottom that I want to mark, so I'm going to mark that with my pencil. And again, to be clear in my mind where I'm cutting, I'm just going to go ahead and colour that in. So it's that one we need to take out now. Okay, and we need 2 pieces that look like this. Okay, so from our initial 3 squares to put our game together, we've made our 3 into 4 because our 4th one we chopped in half. Single cut, triple cut, single cut in each half. Okay, and as a very quick check that this is going to work, that's a nice joint. Side one goes in, that's a nice joint. Side one goes in like so. So you can see we've got the basic puzzle built. I could go ahead and use some hot glue later if I choose to, but this is firm enough now because I was so accurate with my cutting that it really doesn't need any glue. Okay, so it's there for you to go ahead and design now. Take off these rough edges with your sandpaper first. Clean off any unwanted pencil marks with an eraser or some sandpaper so they're nice and clean. Go ahead and do your design. So we throw it, it's got to land on a letter or it's got to land on a colour, and you challenge your partner to beat your score or try and get the word that you've landed on. Okay? So I'm going to leave you to go ahead and decorate your own now. There it is, our first StuDIYo basic game based on the principle of cutting straight lines. Hope you enjoyed it. There you have it. That was your most recent StuDIYo project, your basic game based around the theory of straight line cuts. All of the details are on the description below. Remember, you can do our projects by visiting us at Times Square, Sheikh Zayed Road in Dubai, Studio Lab. We're up on the first floor. Or take advantage of our home hire kit and do our projects online in front of us as you work through step by step using the basic material that we issue with your home kit. See you next time.